This is Carlyle's Picks, a top products list. I do reviews and recommendations on cars, motorcycles, jets, yachts, and much more. But today, I'm talking about the Ninja H2 and the Ninja H2R. I've been reading a lot of comments all over the internet about people saying that the Ninja H2 costs too much money. It's not worth the hype. There's better bikes you can get for better prices. Do you think the Ninja H2 costs too much money? Do you think that the Yamaha R1 and the Yamaha R1M are better bikes? Well, this video is for you because I think you've got it wrong. I think the Ninja H2 and H2R are the most misunderstood bikes ever. I think everybody understood how amazing the bikes were until they actually found out the details about the bikes, and then it kind of went off track. I'm going to get you back on track. And if you're a Ninja H2 or Ninja H2R fan and you have haters telling you all kinds of nonsense about the bike, this is the video that you're going to send to them to shut them up and set them straight. First things first, if you're going to be talking about the Ninja H2 or Ninja H2R, obviously the bike that you're going to compare it to is going to be the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-10R. That is the ultimate track weapon. That's obviously the bike that the Ninja H2 is aimed at. Wrong! That is absolutely wrong. The Ninja H2 and Ninja H2R are hyper bikes, not super sports. If you want the ultimate track weapon, that is the ZX-10R from Kawasaki. Kawasaki does not currently make any bike to compete with the ZX-10R. That is their best track weapon in the leader class. Ninja H2 and Ninja H2R are relevant to the Kawasaki ZX-10R. That is a fundamental flaw in the way people have been analyzing this bike and critiquing this bike. It's a hyper bike. So there's only two bikes right now that compete with the Ninja H2 and Ninja H2R. There's only two bikes right now that are in the class, same class as the H2 and H2R. And that is the Suzuki Hayabusa 1300R and the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-14R. Those are the two hyper bikes currently that this bike is set to blow away. Absolutely blow away. And once you're on the correct page, then you start to really realize how awesome this bike really is. Because it's not an overweight bike. People keep saying it's an overweight bike. It's not an overweight bike. It's actually a very lightweight bike. It is 60 pounds lighter than the ZX-14R, which in my opinion is the closest bike to the Ninja H2. The first bike on the list I would talk about is the Suzuki Hayabusa.
Hayabusa 1300R!
The Suzuki Hayabusa I picked out only because I don't like big bikes. I'm really a 600 class bike guy. That's what I like. My favorite bike is the Daytona 675R. You can see lots of videos on the 675R on my channel. However, I got schooled when I tried out the Hayabusa. I got on the Hayabusa and thought about it as this big old heavy bike, and then I got schooled on the reality about how awesome that bike is. It's absolutely a different animal. Consider a sports car versus a truck. I'm not saying the Hayabusa is a truck, but I'm just trying to illustrate that it's completely two different worlds. But you know what? Don't listen to what I'm saying right now. I did a review on the Hayabusa that explains it all. Take a look at that video on how I got schooled. I was the one who was saying those bikes are useless, they're heavy, overweight, I want a bike that's nimble, blah, blah, blah. And then I got on the Hayabusa and I was like, wow. Well, the reality is the Hayabusa is a dated bike. I only picked it out because if I'm going to ride an overweight bike, I chose the Hayabusa over the ZX-14R, which I believe is actually heavier. But certainly I do not like the looks of the ZX-14R. But let's get rid of the Hayabusa, the dated gauges, the less power than the ZX-14R, the less electronics, less technology, and let's move on to the next bike on our way to the Ninja H2, which is the king, the champion of the hyper bike market right now. You see, once you put the Ninja H2 in a proper class, that it is an absolute winner. And by the way, it wins, or it won, even before you take in these considerations. Because the Ninja H2 and Ninja H2R is ultimately supposed to make a huge statement to the motorcycle industry, and that statement has been made loud and clear to the world. The entire world is talking about, concerned about, and infatuated with this bike, and therefore the Kawasaki brand. So it's won before the race has even begun. And this is not just my personal opinion. I did the research. And right now, people are searching for Ninja H2 and Ninja H2R far more than the next bike in the list. The Yamaha R1 and R1M are next under the list, but there's a significant gap of interest between the Ninja H2 and the R1. And then below that is the Ducati. Interesting how that works out. So again, as far as the popularity and level of interest and publicity, the Ninja H2 and Ninja H2R are the champions by far. And that is a huge asset to any business. Imagine if you had a business that the entire world was talking about. That's a win before the race even begun. And then once you talk about the actual numbers and you talk about it in the appropriate class, the hyperbike class, again, it's a winner. The closest bike is 60 pounds heavier. So riding a ZX14R is like riding an H2 with a dog, a 60-pound dog on the bike. That's a huge weight difference. So when you consider that, the Ninja H2 is actually a lightweight bike, a very lightweight bike. Now, go further than that. It has a lot more horsepower than the ZX14R. And it's not just horsepower. People are looking at this bike and they're comparing it to other bikes with similar horsepower that are naturally aspirated. I'm telling you, torque curve is huge. I did a review on the Zero S electric motorcycle. Take a look at the review. Here's a link. Check it out. That bike has a power of not a race 600cc bike, but just a normal tame 600cc bike. So it's not really aggressive, but yet the bike was a lot of fun. You know why? Because you get the maximum torque all the time, every time. Now think about that, doing that with a bike that its maximum power is massive. Think about having massive amounts of torque and horsepower available to you anytime, anywhere. From the get-go, from as soon as you twist that throttle, it's ready to go. So that is going to make a 200 horsepower supercharged bike a lot more exciting than a 200 horsepower naturally aspirated bike. So you cannot look at them and say, oh, the horsepower numbers are close. Irrelevant. The performance potential of this bike would be far away from any bike that's naturally aspirated that has a similar horsepower or torque number because of where the power is going to be available. The torque curve is what you guys are missing. I remember one of the first times riding on a Gixxer 1000 and I stalled it in first gear because those inline 4 engines have no power down low. Now compared to a 600, the 1000cc bike has more grunt down low, but it's not really down low. You're more talking like mid-range and up. But the initial, when you twist that throttle, it's kind of chugging along. Depending on the bike, of course, but a lot of times those bikes are chugging along. This is supercharged. You guys cannot discount that. That has a tremendous excitement factor potential on the Ninja H2 and the Ninja H2R. I would even venture to say if the Ninja H2 only had 180 horsepower, even 150 horsepower, it could still be a lot more exciting than a bike with 180 horsepower that's naturally aspirated. I'm telling you, man, that torque curve, that low-end grunt is going to be insane. But ultimately, this bike destroys the champion of the hyperbikes right now, the ZX14R. ZX14R, people look at that bike and they say, oh, it's a heavy bike, it's a highway bike. But actually, a competent rider can actually have a lot of fun on even a hyperbike in the twisties. Subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing some videos, Hayabusa in the twisties, to let you guys see the capability of these hyperbikes. Now, if I can have fun in a big old heavy Hayabusa, old dated Hayabusa in the twisties, can you imagine what can be done with an H2, 60 pounds lighter? This is the king, the champion, potential champion of the hyperbikes. A bike that has the extreme high-speed potential, the extreme high-speed smoothness, so a bike that you can top it out and feel like you're just cruising, but yet you have a potential to rip up the twisties as well. Not like the ZX10R, but a ZX10R doesn't have the power of this bike either. So you're talking about a monster of a bike that might actually be, for the first time, having a hyper bike that might actually be beyond just, oh, this is actually pretty good considering how big it is. No, it might actually be pretty good, period. Again, not as good as the ZX10R, but it might actually be a pretty good bike in the twisties, period. Certainly, probably going to be better than the other bike. The final factor is the price. Oh, it costs too much money. These bikes are made to order. People saying also they're not going to sell at that price point. They're going to sell every single bike every single bike is going to be sold because they're not going to sell any bikes that weren't ordered.
Why would you want something this large and heavy in the canyons? What are you going to do with it? It's going to be a chore moving this thing around. Well, well, well. Is that what you guys think? Well, you are watching Carlyle's Picks, and we're about to find out if the old school mentality of big bikes are highway bikes is actually still valid anymore. Where do you think you're going? Take a look at some of these other awesome motorcycle videos right here on your Fast Life. Take a look at these. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh